Hi there, and thank you for tuning in to the Social Circus, where every week we dive into a variety of topics covering social media, mindset, and how to run your business. I hope that you enjoyed today's episode. Hello, my lovely listeners, and welcome to episode 179 of the Social Circus Podcast. Today, you are going to be tuning in to another wonderful episode on my Summer Story series. And in this series, what I'm doing is talking to women who are entrepreneurs into a little bit about their story, into how they got started on their business and some of their journey along the way. So today, I'm really thrilled to be joined by Jane, who is the owner of Jane O'Reilly Transformations. Welcome, Jane.
Hello, Sarah. Thank you for having me.
My absolute pleasure. Now, for all of my listeners who haven't heard of you, can you tell us a little bit about what it is that you do in your business?
Okay, well, I am predominantly a hypnotherapist and coach, and I work with people who are experiencing stress and anxiety and need to learn how to regulate their nervous system.
I'm sure you're not busy. I
There's
feel
an
like
awful lot. Yeah.
I know. I feel like if we don't have anxiety, then we're feeling stressed, and we probably don't understand the difference between those two conditions. But in terms of that area, can you explain to us a little bit? Because I think we all have an idea of what we think hypnosis is and what is hypnotherapy. And I don't think many of us give it the credibility that it actually has, because it's been very intensively researched and studied. So can you tell us, if I was to come to you and say, Jane, I'm really struggling with anxiety, I'm not sleeping well, I'm getting all of those, symptoms that we have. Tell us a little bit about what hypnotherapy is and what does it look like if I was being working with you, for example.
Okay, well, I guess hypnotherapy is a tool, basically.
Hmm.
It's simply a tool that is very useful in place of talk therapy. Talk therapy certainly has its place, don't get me wrong,
Hmm.
but sometimes people need to be able to actually understand how to get in touch with their nervous system and how to settle that down. So I work with people and I coach them through all sorts of woo-woo ways. Woo-woo in itself is science backed, but we can always go into that another day. So it's, I guess, anxiety and stress, and even PTSD, which somebody once described as anxiety on steroids. It's basically when you feel like you are losing control of yourself or your mind. And this obviously is going to create huge blocks for people. So hypnosis is not what a lot of people think. If they
Hmm.
sort of think about the stage hypnosis, no, I can't
Yes.
take control over anyone's mind and I cannot make you cluck like a chicken. I wish I had a fiver for every time somebody said that. It's
Sure.
all it is very much like meditation. It's where I put you into a relaxed state of trance. And in that moment, you can actually literally slip inside yourself and get to the core of who you are, because most of us don't really know who we really are because it's been overshadowed by experience, and that experience forms beliefs. And those beliefs are the things that hold you back and get your brain running on overdrive to a point where you're almost into, certainly in stress mode, but also in panic mode.
Mm.
So it's just being able to control the autonomic nervous system, and there are so many ways in which to do that. So that's basically how I work with people, where I'm actually teaching them that your mind is, or your conscious mind, you're actually using only 5 to 10% of the time.
Yes.
The rest of
Yes.
it is all comes from the blueprint that you were born with. But if that blueprint, as I say, has been overshadowed by adverse experiences, those experiences form the beliefs, and they're normally deep set because they set
Yes.
in between 0 and 7 years old.
Wow. So I've
Um,
already wrecked my kids.
I don't, do you know how many times I've thought that? I spend a lot of time apologizing to mine, but that's okay. As a grandmother, you get to go and write it all up again when it's
Oh, I
worked
love
well.
that. So with hypnotherapy, I mean, I think it would be fair to say most of us suffer, particularly us who run businesses, with a high degree of stress, some anxiety, and many of us carry all sorts of traumas with us. And how does that then, are those all symptoms of the underlying inability to cope? Or like, I feel like we're seeing, and I kind of like the fact that we can be more authentic and say, I suffer with anxiety or I suffer with this. I kind of like that we're more open with it compared to, say, 20 years ago when it wasn't talked about. Do you think that most of us are carrying some sort of stress within us and we're holding it in?
I would say almost without a doubt, there are very, very few people I've ever met that don't have some sort of stress. And, that's unfortunately a sign of the times that we're living in. Stress and fear is fed to us day in, day out.
Mm,
And whereas, you know, well, hundreds and thousands of years ago, if you like, we were not ever made for the stress response to remain switched on.
mm,
You're supposed to actually let go of stress after you've dealt with something that creates some sort of fight or flight or freeze, which is how we're able to stay safe. Whereas years ago, our ancestors would have kicked in when they had to run from a tribal member or fierce animal or something. But the
yeah.
minute, but the minute that stress or that fear has gone, your nervous system is meant to return to rest and digest. But today there are so many stresses, and it's fed to us obviously through media, social media, etc., that we buy into that fear, and so it's underlying. And then when you get real issues coming up in life, then that whole experience is magnified, I guess.
Well, it's easy enough to derail us because we're already operating at this sort of very high stress level. And I know I've certainly felt like that myself at times in the past. So today, thank you so much for explaining all that and kind of debunking what some of our views are around hypnotherapy because it is a very valid modality, like you say. So I'm curious, and I'm sure my listeners, how does one become how do you even get into being a hypnotherapist? Like, what was your journey to where you are now, Jane?
Oh, okay. I'll try and keep this brief.
That's okay. That's why we're here to chat about your story.
Years and years and years ago, I shouldn't say years and years and years really, because it's a bit of a dead giveaway for my age, but I
Well,
don't
it's
really care.
okay.
Yeah,
It's
I don't care.
okay.
Age equals experience, right?
Hmm.
Um, so I started off, well, actually, even when I was 20, I did a diploma of adult development, as it was known as then. And
Wow.
psychology has been something that's interested me for a long, long time, just really what makes humans tick.
Hmm.
And after I had spent some time running a local chambers of commerce, I was then asked to go and head up some retrenchment recovery programs, which was basically mass redundancies
Oh,
from industries like Ansett was one big one.
I remember that.
Yeah, and also the forestry industry had to lay off so many workers, and these were people whose, I guess, jobs literally defined them. They had known nothing else. So when that rug was pulled out from under them, their stress levels was absolutely through the roof. That was my first insight into working with clients one to one and helping them basically see the skills that they already had were transferable into other industries and other roles. Um, and from there, I went into career advising. So I was working then predominantly with women who were 40 and over, had been
Hmm.
out of the workforce for years. Um, and it was all very well showing them where their transferable skills were, but underlying, obviously, everything was huge amount of fear. So it was during that time that I was working one-to-one with clients, and we'd create action plans and I'd get them through each step, and they'd come back every week and we'd work through this over a period of time. And I absolutely loved it.
Oh,
Yeah, well, because
you're
you,
helping people.
yeah, and but also it was understanding how people formed or based their identity on what they did for a
Mm,
living, um, without ever really knowing who they were. So
yes.
that's what really drove my interest. And I've worked, these programs that I've mentioned were state-funded programs, and I also worked with a lot of refugees as well. And these are people, this was just after September 11.
Wow.
So these are people who had come over here, they had lost everything. A lot of them had had to leave um, spouses behind and
Mm,
young children. And they were highly qualified people. I'm talking about lawyers, doctors, people like that who were so grateful even to be driving taxis.
mm,
But it was, instead of seeing shame, I saw gratitude and I
hmm.
saw resilience, and this ability to reform their lives just absolutely blew me away. And that, I mean, that has got me in goosebumps at the
I know
moment.
you've got, I've got goosebumps listening to that because um, the question of who am I without that is such a big question. And I know for me, having been self-employed and been Sarah from Online Social Butterfly for well over a decade, it's a very big question now, especially as I'm in my 50s. Like the next step will be Sarah. I call her Sarah 5.0 at the moment, my 50s, and Sarah 6.0 is likely to not have online social butterfly after it. And what will that mean? And who am I without that? And it's quite an interesting question. And I kind of feel like I'm looking forward to what does she look like. But I've done lots of work along the way, and I know that there's still quite a bit of trepidation imagining who would I be without that identity.
Yeah, exactly. And this was something that I saw a lot with these redundancies. It was
Mm,
these people were just absolutely lost. But I guess it's the nature of human resilience that all of us have.
yeah.
But that's the one thing that gets buried when anxiety and stress has taken somebody over. And I guess what got me into this, to answer your original question,
That's fine. I've loved hearing all your journey. That's great.
was in many ways becoming a grandmother,
Hmm.
and realizing the importance of those formative years, and understanding that, parenting is, nobody needs a degree to become a parent. And we all sort of stuff up along the way. Nobody's perfect,
Hmm.
but it is so important how you speak to your kids, how you encourage them, and importantly, how you don't pass on the anxiety and stress. And that can be really difficult for a lot of people, especially people who have had generational trauma. I've had worked with quite a few clients now, of Indigenous backgrounds, and they carry an enormous amount of generational trauma. And how do you not pass that on? And I
Great
guess,
difficulty.
well, exactly. And it's I guess starting at the very basics, which is those feelings in your body are trying to tell you something. If you're not listening, then they're going to run the show instead of you being able to contain what is not you, meaning the anxious stress responses, and learning to be responsive or responsible, as opposed to reactive. But I mean, it's hard when you've got young children and not to react with, "Oh, for God's sake, put this away," or "Why haven't you cleaned
Oh,
up your room?" and all that sort of stuff. Um,
absolutely. It's very so interesting. I had a conversation earlier today with someone about that we were talking about where do we feel like we lost our identity. And I mentioned when I had children, as I felt that was a very big shift in your identity. And so you're trying to work out who you are, like who am I without being a corporate girl? And then who am I in this new role that I don't understand? And then we add another layer of don't mess this up because it's really
Exactly. It's like,
important.
yeah, exactly, exactly. And I guess my grandkids, obviously who I think are perfect,
Hmm.
um, but are also I'm seeing them exhibit signs of anxiety, and I want more
Oh,
than anything to be able to help parents understand how there are ways of being able to control this and actually falling in love with yourself and that original blueprint that we're all born with, which is perfection. I mean, you look at a newborn baby or even a young baby, they don't care if they've got food dribbling out of their mouth or they got a mucky nappy or whatever. They think they're gorgeous anyway because everybody tells them they are.
mm.
But then at some point, we get this belief of, am I enough or am I too much? Or, all of these things that plague the human mind when it is running in overdrive. And I would really love to be able to show as many parents as possible that it doesn't actually have to be like that.
That's a big mission, Jane. I love it though because it's I feel like there's lots out there in terms of information that can make us as new parents in particular feel like overwhelmed and inadequate. I don't think there's enough tools to help us understand this is how you can better cope with this. This is how we can do these things better. And I feel like it's wonderful that you're putting that out into the world. So with anxiety, and I mean, it's really sad that your grandchildren are already exhibiting signs, but we know that so many young children already have lots of signs of having anxiety. And I guess my question is, when you're grandparenting, if you don't mind sharing, because obviously this is very personal, what are you doing that we could probably learn from? Like, what steps are you taking when you're being that active, hands-on grandparent? What are you doing that maybe we should be looking at and thinking, I probably should do that a bit differently?
Um, well, I guess one of the things that comes to mind is um, my granddaughter, who's 11. For quite some time now, she will react to something like if there's a bee in the garden, if she's outside in the garden, there's a bee with her, because she heard somewhere that people can die if they have an allergic response to a bee
Oh,
sting.
shame.
I know. So it's like, well, what if I'm allergic? What if I said, well, but is that real? So I ask them to question whether
Ooh,
something is actually real, because if there's no evidence of what they're saying, then they're less likely to believe it. And I guess if you can nip the negative belief in the bud, I guess is what I'm saying. That's one of the first steps.
wow. I think I did a bit of that, but I think probably we were parented by people who were probably brushed off our hurt a little bit, like, oh, you're fine, dust yourself off. And so I'm decently confident I did that with my children as well, which sounds like that's a good thing to minimize that fear and anxiety of the world around us. But um, I think for many of us, particularly as women running businesses, we're operating with this huge level of stress and anxiety because we're holding all the things, like we're holding on to, am I a good enough mum? Am I a good enough wife? Am I running my business well enough? Am I juggling it all? Is my house okay? Like all of these external pressures are coming in on us. And I know that working with someone like yourself is going to help us have some real breakthroughs. But if we're feeling like that all the time, what should we be looking at in terms of ourself and our lifestyle to make some small changes that would be helpful?
Well, uh, I mean, for women in particular, as you know,
Yes.
Sarah, are particularly bad at actually saying, I'm claiming some of this day for me, just for me. And I think if you can start your day with giving yourself even 20 minutes where you are listening to a meditation, you are taking action on calming that central nervous system
Mm,
and just literally dropping inside yourself. I mean, you can do that through yoga and things like that as well, obviously.
absolutely.
getting outside in nature. I mean, the amount of scientific studies that have been done just on this, just on going for a walk, go and hug a tree. I hug trees regularly, and I'm proud of that. But it's just taking that time with yourself to meditate, to just literally settle into something that's quiet, where your nervous system is given the opportunity to just settle. And I think
Oh.
that is one of the most important things you can do.
Oh, I love that advice. And if you don't mind me sharing, Jane, I have to tell you this because I go walking every day with my husband, and we're very lucky because I still live in Perth. We live really near some beautiful bushland, and it has a lovely path around it that takes about 40 minutes to walk. And there's this beautiful big tree in there. I feel like it's the king of that area of the woods. You can spot them kind of thing, can't you? And my husband started touching the tree every time we walk past it, and
Yeah,
stopping and like closing your eyes for 10 seconds. And it's been really interesting because we've been doing it for months and months, and we do it every day. We touch this tree, and it's really calming, but it gives you a sense of life outside your own without sounding um, too kind of off the sort of realm. You notice the ebb and flow of life. Like we just come out of winter, and the tree was so wet all winter. And it's just starting to dry out now, and you touch the tree and it feels different. And you notice this, and it makes you think about your body changes, like watching a tree change through the seasons. I don't think we even notice that in ourselves because in this artificial environment, we just push through and we go 365 days a year, 7 days a week, and to watch this tree just doing its thing, holding water, letting it go. It's a beautiful rhythm of life. And I feel like we get really disconnected from it.
absolutely. Absolutely. And also that the other thing that we tend to lose when if we don't tune in, like you've just talked about, is you lose that sense of awe. Like
Mm,
one of the most exciting things for me this week is watching watching one of the plants that my husband planted 3 years ago when we moved to the hills of Perth,
hmm.
waiting for this thing to flower. And I've been watching this plant and talking to
Oh,
the plant, and now it's got flowers on it. And I am so excited. And it's just watching those sorts of things and actually understanding everything that's gone into that to create that outcome.
mm,
And we don't do that enough. We really
absolutely, we
don't.
don't. I love the fact that you use that word awe because um, we're so, our phones are constantly bombarding us with, by and large, just absolute drivel. Um, and you just look at it and you're just like, oh, I don't need it. I don't even know why I'm looking at this. And we're looking at it because we're addicted to it. But when you go out into nature and you see, like right now with spring blooming, and it's so beautiful and it changes so much, and that awe and that joy that you get. Um, it reminds me of the time because I'm really consciously working hard and staying off my phone and not working all the time. And the easiest way to do that is to get out of my house. It's the easiest way to do it.
Yeah,
And I kind of feel like we are very dismissive of that because we think, well, if I'm not working, I'm doing nothing, and we don't really value rest. And I wish that that was something we could all change because I know for me it's been huge to lean into the need to stop and rest as I get older. And it's nice. It feels nice. I feel like this is what we're supposed to do.
absolutely. You reminded me then of my mum, who was an absolute little human dynamo. I say
Mm.
little, I don't mean that condescendingly. She was only
I'm
five
only
foot
five,
one.
I'm 5'4", so it's
Oh,
fine.
you're tall compared. But she was always on the go. And I used to say to her, Mum, why don't you just have a lie down with your book for a while? I can't do that, she'd say, it's such a waste of time. But she would always go to bed with a book and she'd start reading and then fall asleep with a book on her face. But her whole thing was, I can't take a rest during the day because that's seen as wasting time.
I
And
struggle with that.
yeah, but so then we have to go on holiday to do it,
It's
which is
ridiculous, isn't it?
it
Um, and
is.
and I wonder when this culture, because I feel like it's pervasive now, this need to be all go, full throttle, hustle, hustle, hustle. And it's not how we're designed. And as soon as we step into nature, it's not how nature works. And it's very unnatural. And I feel like I'd love to, when I set my word for 2026, think about setting it as something like, I really like the word awe and joy and rest. I think they're such important words that we don't focus on how necessary they are.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say so. At least pick one of them, I'd say.
I think joy sounds good. I'm into
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I'll have some more of that, thanks.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Oh,
we aren't kind enough to ourselves, I don't think. And you know, we're in I don't really know what the answer is in terms of escaping it.
no, I don't think there's one single answer, because if there was, we could all just go, oh, you just do this. Whereas that might work for me today, and then tomorrow I'm like, I don't want to do that. So I guess that we have to explore what suits us. Like you say, I don't like napping. Other people love it. So I guess we have to work out, what does that look and feel like for us. And if we don't give ourselves any space to explore it, we will never know who we are without our 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 business or our roles.
Exactly. And I think probably one way to do it, and this is something that I've started doing again, is actually, and it doesn't matter how good or bad you are, there's none of that involved, but doing something like taking up a bit of artwork. I bought my husband and I a paint by numbers kit each. And
Yes.
we've had this one up on an easel, and we just every now and then we just pick up a paintbrush and we just add to it and add to it. And it's just
Oh.
it's brilliant. I mean, I've done ordinary painting as well.
Hmm.
When I say ordinary, I mean freestyle paint.
Freehand, yes.
Yeah, yeah. But I think doing something like that, it helps you to become more creative in life in general.
Mm,
But it just takes you away from that screen, whether it's a TV or on your phone or on your laptop.
mm.
And the danger, I guess, in the screen stuff is that we can very easily fall victim to comparison.
Oh, yes.
And comparison, as we know, is the thief of creativity.
Oh, and the thief of joy.
Mm,
I know it is a tough one. I feel like you might need to come back and we have a chat about that.
happy to, anytime.
Oh,
Yeah.
look, Jane, it's been delightful having you on here, to have what I think is a very relaxed conversation, talking about things that are not very relaxed, stress and anxiety. So, thank you so much for coming on my podcast. Thank you for talking so honestly about becoming a grandparent and how that inspired you. I'm really grateful, and I'm grateful to have you in my world as someone who I get to connect with regularly. It's lovely. So, thank you for being a guest on my podcast.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you very much for the opportunity and for the chat.
Oh, my
I'm
pleasure.
also very grateful to have you in my world too.
Oh, lovely. And to my gorgeous listeners, if you have enjoyed listening to Jane, please check out the show notes on where you can connect with her online and in person if you happen to be here in Perth. And remember, you can catch us the same time every week on the Social Circus. Thanks so much for tuning in to the Social Circus. As your host, Sarah Thompson, I am thrilled that you've chosen to spend your time hanging out with me. I would be so grateful if you could spare an extra moment to go and leave me a review on your favorite podcasting platform. And if you even felt more excited, you could share my podcast with your friends who you think would get great value from it. Thanks so much again for tuning in.